Interpolated translation for Parshat Vayetze. Jacob's dream. 28:10 Jacob left Beersheba. While he was living there, Jacob's righteous conduct inspired the inhabitants of the city to behave properly and made them feel ashamed to behave improperly. Thus, his departure left a palpable vacuum, and the inhabitants felt that their city had lost its most valuable asset. 1. After Jacob left, Esau sent his son Eliphaz to kill him. Eliphaz pursued Jacob and caught up with him, but was then faced with a dilemma. On the one hand, he was duty-bound to obey his father's command to kill Jacob. On the other hand, because he had been raised by his righteous grandfather, Isaac, his conscience got the better of him and he could not bring himself to kill his uncle Jacob. So he decided to ask Jacob himself what he should do. In response, Jacob gave Eliphaz all his possessions, pointing out to him that the Torah views a poor person as dead because he lacks resources with which to influence other people. 2 Eliphaz could now therefore tell his father that he had indeed left Jacob dead. 3. Aware of the challenges awaiting him in Choron, Jacob realized that he needed to prepare himself spiritually before going there. He therefore returned to the academy of Ever. Shem had already died by then, studying there assiduously for the next 14 years, 2171 to 2185. He then finally set out for Choron. When he arrived, he realized that he had unwittingly passed Mount Moriah, where his father and grandfather had prayed, without praying there himself. In order to rectify this apparent affront to his forebears' conduct, he turned around and retraced his steps in the direction of Mount Moriah. When he reached Bethel, God miraculously uprooted Mount Moriah and set it down in Bethel. 11 Thus, Jacob unknowingly came upon the place, Mount Moriah, where his father had been bound and nearly sacrificed. Although it was still daylight when he arrived, God made the sun set early in order to force him to spend the night. Once it became dark, Jacob prayed to God, for in addition to following his father's custom of praying every afternoon and his grandfather's custom of praying every morning, for he had instituted the practice of praying every night, as well. Thus, although he had not originally planned on doing so, he spent the night there, on Mount Moriah, because the sun had set. In order to protect himself from wild animals, he took some of the stones of that place and placed them around his body 5 and head. When he took another stone to use as a pillow, the stones he had placed around his head protested, each demanding the honor of serving as Jacob's pillow, so God miraculously transformed them into one stone. 6 Jacob lay down in that place to sleep. This was the first time in 14 years that he actually lay down to sleep, for during his stay in Ever's academy, he had made it a point to continue studying into the night, only taking short naps as necessary. 12 He had a dream. He beheld a ladder standing firmly on the ground and sloping diagonally upward, its top reaching up toward heaven. Its base rested in Beersheba, and its top was above Bethel. Thus, the original, natural location of Mount Moriah was beneath a point in between the two extremes of the ladder. 7 Upon it, behold, the angels of God who had accompanied him on his trip thus far were ascending back toward heaven, for they were not permitted to leave the land of Israel, and other angels, who were designated to accompany him while he was outside the land of Israel, were descending. 13 And behold, God was standing over him, to guard him during his sojourn in Choron. He said, I am God, God of Abraham your forebear, and God of Isaac. God does not usually refer to himself as the God of a living person, since that person might commit a sin at any time, and thereafter God would not want to be associated with him. However, in Isaac's case, since his seriously impaired eyesight rendered him unsusceptible to the world's temptations, God did not hesitate to refer to himself as Isaac's God. He miraculously contracted the entire land of Israel into the 4 square cubits under Jacob's body, and told him, "I will give the land upon which you are lying to you and your descendants. It will be as easy for them to conquer it from its inhabitants as it is for a person to control the 4 square cubits occupied by his own body." 14 Your descendants will be as numerous as the dust of the earth, and you shall spread out powerfully to the west, to the east, to the north, and to the south, and all the families on earth will be blessed through you and through your descendants. 15 Behold, you do not need to fear Esau or Laban, for I am with you. I will protect you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land, for I will not neglect you by not providing you with food and clothing. 10 Until I have fulfilled what I have promised Abraham concerning you. For I intend to fulfill all the promises I made to Abraham through you and not through your brother Esau. 11 Including my promise that Abraham's children will all remain true to their heritage. Esau's inheritance from Abraham will consist solely of the territory promised him. 12. 16 Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, God is truly present in this place, yet I was not aware of it. Had I known that this was a holy place, I would not have slept here. 17 He became afraid, and said, How awesome is this place! This is none other than Mount Moriah, the future site of the house of God. 13 And thus, this is the gateway through which prayer ascends to heaven, passing through the heavenly temple, which is figuratively situated above the site of the physical temple, meaning that the site of the future temple is the earthly locale most receptive to the spiritual consciousness of the higher worlds. 18 Jacob rose early in the morning, took the semicircular stone that he had placed under his head, and set it up as a monument. He then poured oil on the top of it, consecrating it as an altar. 14. 19 This place was already known as Bethel, but in light of the revelation he had just received, Jacob ratified this name. He named that place again Bethel, House of God, although the original name of the town was Luz. 20 Jacob made a vow, saying, If God will be with me, and will protect me physically on this journey that I am undertaking, and will give me bread to eat and clothing to wear. 21 And will protect me spiritually from Laban's evil influence, so that I will be able to return to my father's house untainted by sin. And if God will be both my God and the God of the children I will father in Laban's house, in that they all remain true to their heritage and not rebel, as did some of my grandfather Abraham's, and one of my father Isaac's children, as he has promised me all this. 15. 22 Then this stone that I have set up as a monument will become a house of God. I will offer up sacrifices on it. And, addressing God directly, he said, I will set aside 1/10 for you of everything that you give me, as my forebears did. 16.